Imagine an atom. I am almost certain you are seeing that picture from your high school physics textbook. In the center, a dense nucleus, and around it, like little marbles, electrons are cutting circles along beautiful, elongated orbits. Neat, predictable, understandable. Well, forget that picture. It isn't true. We were all taught that an atom is 99.9% empty space. You've surely heard this popular analogy. If you enlarged the nucleus of an atom to the size of a football and placed it in the center of a stadium, the electrons would be tiny specks of dust in the very last rows of the stands, and between them, a giant abyss of emptiness. There is even a popular fact. If you removed all the empty space from the atoms of all 8 billion people on Earth, the entire human race could be compressed into the size of a single sugar cube. True, that cube would weigh billions of tons. It sounds a bit depressive, but poetic, as if to say, we are all walking emptiness. But modern quantum mechanics looks at this analogy and laughs, because it has nothing to do with reality. The atom is not empty. It is filled to the brim. The problem is that we are used to thinking of an electron as a tiny ball, but at the quantum level, the word particle is just a convenient metaphor to keep our brains from exploding. In reality, an electron is not a dot. It is an event. It is not a speck of dust in a stadium. It is a thick fog that fills the entire stadium simultaneously. The electron races around the nucleus so fast and exists in so many places at once that it turns into a probability cloud. It is literally smeared across space. This is called the wave function, and this function fills the entire volume of the atom. There is no emptiness there. There is a dense, saturated, vibrating field. We are not made of solid particles. We are made of speed. We are made of probabilities. Therefore, when you pick up a rock, you are not holding emptiness with specks of matter. You are holding a cluster of fields. But if you are just a collection of vibrating clouds, why is it that when you sit on a chair, your clouds don't pass right through its clouds? Why don't you fall through the floor and land right on your neighbor's heads? What creates this illusion of an impenetrable wall that we call reality? The answer lies in one strange quantum law that, in essence, forbids you from touching anything in this universe. Yes, you have never touched anything in your life. Press your finger against the table. What do you feel? The cold of the surface? Resistance? Hardness? Your brain tells you, I am touching the table, but it is lying to you. What you call hardness is not a property of the material. It is the sensation of an energy barrier. In reality, at the nano level, you are not touching the table. You are hovering above it, always. Usually, this is explained like this. It's just electricity. Atoms are surrounded by electrons. They have a negative charge. Minus repels minus, like magnets. And that is part of the truth, but a very small part. If it were only about electrical repulsion, then with enough force, say, if an elephant stepped on you, these charges could be overcome, and the atoms could be crushed into mush. The reason this doesn't happen is the Pauli exclusion principle. You could call it the quantum law of personal space. In quantum physics, all particles are divided into two camps, bosons and fermions. Electrons and quarks are fermions, and they have a fundamental property. They categorically cannot exist in the same quantum state at the same point. Imagine a shopping mall parking lot on Black Friday. Every electron cloud has its own parking spot, its quantum state. And if this spot is taken, another electron cloud cannot park there. No way. Physically, the universe does not allow it. When you stand on the floor, your atoms try to squeeze into the space of the parquet floor's atoms. Imagine that every atom of the floor is a guitar string that is already sounding. The electron fields in these atoms are already vibrating at their base, most comfortable note. They have filled all the space at this level. When your foot presses on the floor, You are trying to force your fields into that very same rhythm. But quantum physics sets a hard block. Two identical waves cannot exist in the same point. It's like trying to press a piano key that is already pressed down. It won't press a second time. To let you in, the floor's fields would have to abruptly change their vibration, which is far too energy intensive. So the fields dig in. They tell your foot a hard quantum no. Physicists call this degeneracy pressure, but in essence, the hardness of matter is simply the impossibility of taking someone else's seat. But what about water? Or soft clay? Can't I fall through them? You ask. You can, but you do not pass through the atoms. You push them apart. Water atoms are just as untouchable as concrete atoms. The difference is merely in how these atoms hold on to each other. In a solid floor, atoms have found pairs with opposite spins and locked their clouds together, creating a rigid lattice. They are like soldiers in formation, linking arms. To pass, you have to break the formation. But in water, atoms are a free crowd at a party. When you dive into water, you don't pass through the people. You just roughly shove them aside with your elbows. But even while underwater, you remain dry at the quantum level. A layer of water slides over your skin, but between your atom and the water atom, that same impassable abyss still remains. Okay, you say, I am a cloud of fields, I am levitating, but if I am so untouchable, why can I get cut? If a knife never touches my skin, why does blood flow? To understand this, you need to stop thinking of a knife as a solid object. For the atoms of your skin, a knife blade is not a material. It is a narrow, aggressive beam of a force field. When you get cut, it is not a mechanical penetration. It is an electromagnetic catastrophe. The knife's field wedges itself between the molecules of your skin with such force that the chemical bonds holding you together simply cannot withstand it. And snap. You do not get cut by the knife. Your tissues tear themselves apart, unable to withstand the electromagnetic pressure from the outside. But what is pain if steel doesn't touch your nerves? When bonds snap, cells are destroyed. Their contents spill out, the chemical balance shifts, and your nerve endings, nociceptors, start sounding the alarm. They send an urgent telegram to the brain. Perimeter integrity breached! The brain sees the signal and screams, "Pain!" You do not feel cold metal. You feel the panic of your own body being torn apart from the inside by forces it didn't even touch. The same thing happens with heat and cold. When you pick up a hot cup, heat doesn't flow into you. The cup's atoms are simply vibrating very fast. Their frantic fields begin to rock your skin's fields, forcing your atoms to dance faster. You don't feel heat. You feel the acceleration of your own particles. Or wind. It is not a soft touch of air. It is billions of gas molecules crashing into your force field at supersonic speeds like microscopic bullets. Your skin bends under this bombardment, and the nerves report, "We are being bombed." And the brain translates this as, "Oh, a nice breeze." Physiologically, our brain is isolated. It has no direct contact with reality. All that is available to it are reports from the nervous system. The brain doesn't know what is happening outside. It registers only how the state of the body itself changes. But if we are just vibrating energy and fields, why do we weigh anything at all? Why does nothing weigh so much that sometimes it's hard for us to get out of bed? Einstein gave the answer to this, but in school they explained his formula to us incorrectly. The sensation of weight is the most convincing proof of reality. It seems to us, if something is heavy, it means there is a lot of stuff there, a lot of matter. Let's take an inventory of your body. You consist of atoms. In the center of the atom is the nucleus. Inside it are protons and neutrons. And inside them are tiny quarks. It is logical to assume that your weight is the sum of the weight of all these quarks, right? No, If we weigh all the quarks in your body, they will make up barely 1% of your mass. Where does the other 99% of the weight come from? It comes from the emptiness between the quarks. To understand this, we need to recall Einstein's equation, which everyone has seen on t-shirts, but few understand. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. We are used to reading it as a recipe for an atomic bomb. Matter turns into energy. But this equation works in reverse, too. Energy is matter. Look inside a proton. Quarks are rushing around in there at near light speeds, held together by the gluon field. This field is like a super powerful spring, and it is the energy of this frantic motion that creates what we call mass. Imagine a tornado. What is it made of? Air and dust. Air is light, but when it spins into a vortex at 300 kilometers per hour, it becomes hard as a concrete wall. You can crash into it. It acquires enormous destructive inertia. A tornado is heavy because it is fast. You are billions of such micro-tornadoes. Your mass is the weight of the frantic energy spinning inside you that cannot stop. You are not a material object. You are a cluster of motion. You are light that got caught in a trap, curled into a ball, and now thinks it is a solid body. Physicists call matter frozen light, or condensed energy. But wait, you'll say, if 99% of mass is motion energy, gluons, then what is that remaining 1%? Are quarks at least real, solid marbles? No, even they are not solid. Their mass is simply the result of them getting bogged down in an invisible field spilled across the entire universe. The Higgs field. When you run through water, it is hard not because you became heavier, but because the water resists. Quarks and electrons weigh something only because they rub against this field. If we could switch off the Higgs field and stop the motion of gluons, you would instantly vanish. You would turn into a pure stream of light, flying without mass or time. So the next time you step on the scale and get upset, just tell yourself, I'm not heavy, I'm just incredibly energetic. And physically, that will be the pure truth. But if we consist of energy, and there are no particles, then what is this world around us? If we remove all the scenery, what does the universe look like at the deepest level? Spoiler, it looks like an ocean that isn't there. Look at the empty space in front of you. What is there? Air, dust, photons of light. But if we remove all of that, if we pump out the air, remove every speck of dust, every atom, shield it from any light, what will remain? We are used to calling this vacuum, emptiness, nothing. But quantum physics tells us emptiness does not exist. Imagine that the entire universe, every millimeter of it, is filled with water, a thick, invisible, vibrating liquid. And it is not just one liquid, it is a layer cake. There is a liquid for electrons, a liquid for photons, a liquid for quarks. Physicists call these layers quantum fields. You cannot remove these fields. They are space itself. What we call a vacuum is simply these very fields in a state of conditional rest. It is the ocean during a calm. The water didn't go anywhere. There are just no big waves on it. These fields are the only reality that truly exists. They were here before the birth of stars and will remain after their death. They permeate everything, the walls of your house, your body, the furthest galaxy. So what is matter? What is you? A particle is not a tiny ball floating in this ocean. A particle is a wave on the surface of this ocean. An electron does not exist separately from the electron field. An electron is the moment when the field in a specific point received energy and started vibrating. It is a splash, a ripple. Imagine a whirlpool in a river. Is a whirlpool a separate object? Can you take a whirlpool out of the river, put it in your pocket, and carry it home? No, the whirlpool is made of water. It is merely a form of motion of that water. If the river calms down, the whirlpool won't fly away to another place. It will simply vanish. It will dissolve into the medium. You are just such a whirlpool. You are a complex, self-sustaining ripple on the surface of quantum fields. We say, I am in this room. I came into this world. But this is a lie. You are not in the world. You are the world. Skin is not the boundary where you end and not you begins. At the level of fields, you continuously flow into the universe. You are merely a temporary form that the universe took to feel itself. But if all this is just a ripple on the water, just a vibration of fields, then why does this world seem so colorful, solid, and understandable? Is what we see real? The answer is frightening. Because everything you see around you does not exist in that form. Your brain builds a convenient hallucination for you, so you don't go crazy from the truth. Look at the people surrounding you, at the events happening to you. You think, the world is exactly as it is, and I just live in it. I am just a small camera walking around and filming it on video. But quantum physics and ancient teachings speak in one voice. You are mistaken. Science has already proven that outside there are no colors, no sounds, no smells. We will talk about this in detail in future episodes, but right now, something else is important. Outside there is not even form. As long as the universe is left to itself, it is in a state of uncertainty. It is a boiling broth of quantum fields where everything is possible, but nothing is real. For this broth to become a tree, a wall, or your hand, it needs an observer. It requires your consciousness. At that moment when you, as consciousness, pay attention to the world, a miracle happens. Quantum mechanics calls this the collapse of the wave function. But let's call it something simpler: the act of creation. Your attention forces chaos to freeze. You take faceless energy and, with your creator's gaze, turn it into so-called matter. You are not a person looking at the world. You are the space in which this world appears, including your body. You are vibrating fields that have taken on a temporary form. You are frozen light that has acquired mass. Here your mind will surely ask, if I am all of space, then why am I stuck in specifically this body? Why don't I feel myself as the neighbor? You are not stuck in this body. You are in the neighbor's body right now, and in the body of your enemy, and in the body of a bird flying by. You are like an ocean that has filled billions of different pitchers. The water in all the pitchers is the same. It is you, but the pitchers have different walls, different shapes, and most importantly, they stand separate from each other. You do not feel the neighbor in this body, not because you are not there, but because these bodies have different memory settings. They have no common connection cable. Therefore, you here do not remember what you there is doing. But the one who is watching is one and the same. The question, why am I me, is asked by your mind, your ego. But deep consciousness knows You did not dive into specifically this body. You dove into all bodies simultaneously. You are looking at the world through billions of eyes at the same time. It's just that right now, you are focused on this specific pair. The world cannot exist without you. If you remove the observer, the observed disappears too. They are one whole. Like a dancer and the dance. You cannot remove the dancer and leave the dance. Therefore, when you look at a tree, you are not looking at a tree. You are looking at a part of yourself. You are looking at your own energy, which has taken the form of a tree. We suffer for only one reason. We forgot who we are. This whole world is your game, your divine hallucination. You invented time so you wouldn't be bored. You invented space so there would be somewhere to roam. You invented others so there would be someone to love. And all this exists only because you are looking at it right now. But in the end, there is only you. Eternal, unborn, invulnerable. The sole spectator and the sole actor in this infinite theater of one. This is Omega Point. We explore reality so you can feel it.